So we have another MATHCOUNTS national problem. So number 24 on the sprint test. So we have a fair coin is flip until either 3 heads in a row or 4 tails in a row occur. And we want to find the expected value of expected number of times the coin is flipped, basically. So this is an interesting problem because we will use like the states in this problem. But if you kind of don't know the states, then you probably want to kind of do some sort of like reading on that, and then I'll leave something in the description so before you start with this one, because the states is actually a bit advanced tool, I will say, but it is really useful in some setting. So this is the question I'm going to use. So first of all, like the most challenging part with these states is determining your states, right? So in this problem, we have like, we want to achieve like this. We want to get 3 heads in a row, or we want to get like 4 tails. When this one of these happen, then the game is over, right? And we want to find what would be expected number of times that coin should be flipped, right? And we are gonna start with like some defining the states. The first thing is like, you know, if you have such a thing, let's say we have H is the first one, T is the next, and H is next. So there is no pattern. There is no really one of these two types happening. So after this H, you should have another H, but if you don't get H, then you're stuck basically. So which is why this is not good unless you do have H and H coming next, or we'll have that like at least a pattern. So which is why I'm going to determine a state, like I'm going to call S. Let's say this is the starting like state. And then this could happen in 2 ways. One which no flips has done yet. Okay, so no flips. Or no pattern. Okay, because like if you have this HT like forever, there's no really like a pattern yet, so we cannot really finish this like a number of flips at all. So I'm gonna say as either you never started or you couldn't really get any pattern yet. And then H1 is my the last flip is my H. Like let's say this guy, if this is H, that's one H, and then that's only one H. So right before we do not know what's going on, so the last flip is H. Okay, I mean, yeah, which is a head. One head in a row, another way of saying, so the one head in a row. And then similarly H2 is gonna be 2 head in a row. And you can go with like T1, T2, T3, or H3. And based on that, so we know that if I want to kind of take the expected value of those, which I will say next, but before we kind of continue the listing, so I want to say the expected value of, let's say, any states, so I'm going to say, let's say S, is going to be equal to the expected value of like from that state, whatever that state you are in, so H1, H2, or S, or HT2, whatever, the expected value from that state plus is like 1 plus expected value of the next state. Because if you are in a state already, that means you do have 1 flip done, then you're going to find the expected value of that state will be equal to 1 plus the expected value of the next state. So I hope that is clear. So which is why for the first one, like I can start with like 1 plus expected value of like the S, which is the starting state or no pattern state. So you could have, next one is gonna be H, which is 1/2 chance. So I could have H1 or 1/2 chance T1. So you could have such a thing. But that does like one should be count for any states, because you have a state and then you just flip something and then, or you never started. So that is your current expected value. And then plus the expected value of the next state. And the goal is just to see, you know, we do know the expected value of like H3, which is 3 head in a row, is 0. And then expected value of T4 is also 0. But you know, writing these like kind of a bit tedious, which is why I'm gonna just write as H1, H2, H3 to represent the expected value. So that will be just a short way of writing. So we know that, like, I'm gonna start with this now. So I'm gonna rewrite this one with less like letters. So the S is basic expected value of the state S is equal to 1 plus 1/2 times H1 plus 1/2 times T1. So the H1 is equal to the current state plus, so after H1, you could have another H, you could have a T, so that would be 1/2 chance, again, 1/2 times H2. Again, when I say H2, I mean expected value. When I say H1, expected value of state 1 for H, so that's gonna be 1/2 times T1. Okay, so then if I wanna go with H2, so you have 1/2, like 1 plus 1/2 times H3, plus 1/2 times T1 again, because after H2, like when you have 2 H in a row, the next one might be T1 again, which is like 1T basically. But we know that the expected value of H3 was 0, so we can just cross this guy. So, and then if I simplify, that will be 1 plus 1/2 T1. And then we don't need H3 because we don't continue. And then T1 is equal to like 1 plus 1/2 times T2 plus 1/2 times H1. Because after the T, like 1T achieved, so you could get next one is T again, or you could get a H still, so that is possible. So the next one is T2, so that should be 1 plus 1/2 times T3 plus 1/2 times H1. Okay, and then the next one would be T3, which is gonna be 1 plus like 1/2 times T4, right? And then plus 1/2 times H1. But you know, T4 is like 0, expected value of that 0, so which is gonna be T3 would be just 1 plus 1/2 H1. So we got the expected value of each state, so we need to solve this system now. But you know, this has H1, this is T3. Maybe we can plug this into the previous equation. So if I go with them, so I will get T2. So let me just write it here. So the T2, which is this statement, is equal to 1 plus 1/2 times T3. So I'm gonna skip that writing. So if I multiply this equation by 1/2 and then replace right here, so you get 1/2 plus 1/4 times H1. So that is just this part plus the original one, and then plus 1/2 H1. Okay, so then, so we have 3/2 plus, we have 1/4, and then this is 2/4, which is gonna give us 3/4 H1. So we got T2 in terms of H1, right? So which is good. And now I'd like to get everything in terms of H1 if possible. So if I wanna go now replace T2 into T1, because T1 has T2 and H1. So that will be just 1 plus 1/2 times T2. So if I multiply this by 1/2, so you will get 3/4 plus 3/8 H1. And so this is this part, and then plus 1/2 H1, right? And if I simplify this, you do get 7/4. And then this is 3/8, this is 4/8. So if you combine, so you got 7/8 for this one. So now this is good because we have T1 in terms of just H1. So now if I want to kind of plug this into T1, you know, T1 was right here, so I can replace this into this equation because H2 is what we need as well. So H2 is equal to 1/2 T1 plus 1. So we know the T1. So then I can plug into H2 then. So from here, so you can say H2 is equal to like 1 plus 1/2 T1. So I'm going to take the 1/2 of this one. So which is 7/8 plus 7/16 H1. And if I simplify this a bit better, so you will get 15/8 plus 7/16 H1. And now we have H1. So the H1 would be just like 1 plus 1/2 H2 times 1/2 T1. So let's write that 1. So the 1 plus the 1/2 H2. H2 was this. So if I take the 1/2 of this, so you got 1 like 15/16 plus 1/2 of this will be 7/32 H1. So we got the this 1/2 H2, but we need 1/2 T1 as well. So we need to take the 1/2 as of this and add it. So you got 7/8 and then 7/16, right? H1. So now this equation has just H1. So let's double check 1, 15/16, 7/32H, and then 7/8, and 7/16 H1. So like if you multiply both sides by like 32 and simplify a bit, so and then you solve for H1, I'm gonna skip that part. H1 will be 90/11. And then but make sure you do this on your own just to convince that's really the case. And then now we have H1, but we know T1 was also in terms of H1. So if I plug that so into so the T1, if I plug it right here, I will get the T1 as 98/11. Okay. And then we got H1 and T1, and then we are looking for the S because that is the expected value of the number of times. So the S would be just like 1 plus 1/2 times H1, which is 90/11. And then plus 1/2 times 98/11. So like you can cancel those and combine those. If you do so, you get 105/11. So like the question was slightly challenging, but there is another way to set your I'll say the states, which has less number of like equation, but I just want to do it this way because we do have only like 3 heads and 4 tails at most, which we don't need those 3rd head and 4th tail. So which is why we do have not many choice anyway. So which is why I kind of did this way. But if you can come up with another solution, like a bit better than this, maybe way better than this, let's share those as well. But at least this does work. Anyway, see you in the next video.